Welcome, everybody, to the Channel Vision Magazine webinar featuring Cambium, which is going to explain why wireless is the new fiber. I'm your moderator, Bruce Christian, Senior Editor of Channel Vision Magazine. Joining us from Cambium will be Bruce Collins, Senior Director of Product Management, and Christy Meany, Manager of North America Channel Marketing and Development. Welcome to you both. And now, let me turn it over to Bruce Collins.
All right, thanks, Bruce, and thanks everybody for joining today. Really appreciate that. And we've got a lot of material to cover, talking about our cnWave 60 gigahertz solution. And we're going to go through a lot of examples of how this product and this technology is being deployed in different scenarios, whether from a enterprise, service provider, all different types of ways this is being deployed. Some of you may, I guess many of you are familiar with Cambium, but some of you may not be. So I wanted to pop up a real quick slide here that covers really what we call the wireless fabric with Cambium networks. And it really gives you an idea of the breadth of solutions that we deliver for connectivity. Wireless connectivity. So if you look at this screen, there's a lot of detail on here, but if you think about in terms of going out long distances, tens of kilometers, to a couple hundred megabits per second, maybe out over 5 kilometers, a few kilometers, even out to a kilometer with our outdoor Wi-Fi, our 28 gigahertz solutions. But what we're really going to focus on today is up here in the upper left, which is a 60 gigahertz technology. And we're going to talk about how it can be combined with our indoor Wi-Fi, our outdoor Wi-Fi, as well as our enterprise grade switching, and of course our software solution with cnWave Maestro, which kind of ties all that together and gives you a single view of everything that's happening from that indoor Wi-Fi to the outdoor distribution and then on out to the outdoor Wi-Fi. So really ties all together with wireless fabric. So what we're really seeing with this 60 gigahertz technology is that it does apply as much on the enterprise side and the MSP side, where customers are delivering connectivity for video surveillance, outdoor Wi-Fi, multi-dwelling units, as much so as, and then as well on our service provider side. So we're really seeing applications across the board. So let's get into the details of the conversation today. When we talk about 60 gigahertz, I'm going to start with some of the solutions that we can deliver with this technology. And so if you're thinking about, and I've got some pictures here, this first one is a picture of a video surveillance solution in sort of a public area. This could just as well be a remote parking area or remote facility off of an enterprise. The middle one is kind of a building-to-building connectivity. So if you have an office park and you want to provide connectivity from one building to another, or if you're trying to feed Wi-Fi access out into a remote parking area out at the edge of the campus, or even into some remote buildings, you can connect that way. And then you can see similarly with the one on the right, an enterprise being connected from, maybe there's a place where you have a fiber drop that you want to serve a customer, but you want to, perhaps there's a river in the way, or there's a major highway in the way. This is a great way to extend fiber as well. So if you know you can get a fiber pop in this location or a fiber drop in this location, it gives you the chance to connect multiple gigabits per second to that other building. So lots of ways that you can deploy this. And the other thing to think about when you're thinking about wireless technology, a lot of people think, oh, this is big cell towers, tops of water towers. With 60 gigahertz, you really should be thinking about bucket trucks and ladders instead of tower climbs. So you're going to put this on a rooftop. You'll put this on maybe in a parking lot. You might put it on a light standard, or even I'll show you some municipality examples where it's being placed on street furniture, like traffic signals, light posts, those types of scenarios. And as we get into 60 gigahertz, and I talk about it a bit more, keep in mind that this is a pure line of sight technology. So because of the spectrum, you have to be able to visually see point A to point B. And then the propagation, we'll talk about some of the distances and ranges. But that all leads to this point of sort of, you don't necessarily need to put it up on a real high tower. You want to put it at a place that you can see from point A to point B. So the other thing I wanted to just touch on is some of the technology that has evolved and gotten us to this point with the cnWave product. So 60 gigahertz spectrum, many of you may be aware, has been sort of, there have been products available for some time, more than 10 years. But about a year and a half to 2 years ago, there was a major shift in the capabilities. And this was driven by the 802.11ay standard, which is sort of a derivative or draws on the 802.11 technologies, but is specifically called 802.11ay. Chipset manufacturers like Qualcomm make these chips. And then it was combined with Terragraph. And if you Google Terragraph, you'll be able to see what this is about. But it's basically a ecosystem of technology that was incubated out of Facebook, or now Meta Connectivity, where they took some of their technology that they were using in their call centers for high capacity, high speed, high resiliency mesh networking, and moved it into an outdoor environment, leveraging these 802.11ay standard chips. And then Cambium came along and we introduced and overlaid that with our industrial design capabilities, where we've deployed more than 11 million radios around the world. So we've leveraged all that experience. We've leveraged and layered our management capabilities with CN Maestro, and the planning capabilities that we have with our CN Heat and Link Planner. So we can kind of give you that complete system from planning to management, ease of deployment, in combining that with the AY standard and the Terragraph ecosystem. So I'll talk a little bit more about how we're differentiated within that space as we go on, but I want to kind of make sure that everyone's clear on how this can be deployed. And there's really three topologies. The first one up here in the upper left is what we call point-to-point. That's very simple deployment. It's you're connecting point A to point B. You have visual line of sight. If you want to go 150 meters, is kind of a typical range for our small form factor, which I'll show you, or you can go out to maybe 1 kilometer with our higher gain radio. So think in terms of 100 meters to 1 kilometer is the range that you're talking about with these point-to-point links. And today, the state of play is about 1.9 gigabits per second in each direction. So symmetrical capacity. So lots of capacity, no license required. You can drop in a 60 gigahertz network. You can connect 2 buildings. You can connect a Wi-Fi access point. You can connect a video surveillance camera with high capacity in those ranges. Then we talk about point to multi-point in the upper right. Very similar, but instead of having a point A to point B, you have a point A to several points arrayed in a radius around that hub. So we kind of sometimes refer to this as hub and spoke, where you can connect to up to 30 of these devices in an area. So again, great for delivering outdoor Wi-Fi or video surveillance, or connecting multiple buildings from one of these distribution nodes. And then where this technology really shines and has some new capabilities is what we call distributed networking. In this case, I'm putting a DN at different locations around an area. So if you have a large office park, for example, you could put these DNs on each building, and then they form a circular mesh or a mesh topology that gives you that resilience and capacity to overcome any drops in that network. Or you can also add additional fiber nodes. So if you have multiple places on that campus that you have fiber access, you can connect that to the fiber and you build out additional capacity as well as the resiliency. So that really shines with that. But I always want to make sure people don't get hung up on the fact that that this is only the distributed networking, that you can also do simple point-to-point links and point-to-multi-point links, and that's very commonly deployed in those modes as well. Cambium introduced this product about, I guess, about 15 months ago, and we have tens of thousands of these radios out and operating in the wild. And this has really been one of the faster takeoff products that we've had at Cambium. So lots of people coming up with new and unique ways of kind of putting these building blocks together. And speaking of that, on the previous slide, I showed 3 different topologies. All of those can be made with these 3 different building blocks. It's the same equipment, whether you're talking point-to-point, point-to-multi-point, or distributed networks. We have the V5000, which is the distribution node. So if you're going to do any kind of multi-point or meshing, you'd use this V5000. Think in terms of putting these about every 150, 200 meters apart, and then again forming those rings and mesh and structure different structures or topologies. I'll show you some examples with the V5000. And then hanging off of that V5000, you have 2 options. You have our high gain, which is the V3000. So that's the one you can go out to say, with this, you can go out to say 500 meters from the V5000. And then the small form factor, which is about the size of your hand, can go out to about 150 meters or so. You can also use these as point-to-point links. So if you're going to do 150 meter point-to-point link, just drop in 2 of these V1000s, very simple, or the V3000 as well. The 3000 and 5000 also have PoE output ports. So if you want to power a Wi-Fi access point, or you want to power a video camera, you can power that directly off of the PoE output port on either of these devices. The V1000 has just a single port on it, but it is PoE compliant. So if you want to power that off of your switch, or if your Wi-Fi access point has a PoE out, you can power that V1000 off of that as well. So again, very simple to deploy, and you're talking about a very simple kind of a hose clamp type of installation on this. It's very lightweight and simple to deploy. I think I have a picture of it later on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the next couple slides, but I wanted to kind of highlight the difference in providing coverage. This is actually a service provider example, but it could easily be applied to an office park, or a place where I'm trying to deliver Wi-Fi access point to Wi-Fi access outdoor to an extended area. And the difference being, traditionally, you might pop up a tower in one location and try to feed that entire area with one tower. And what you would see with that is I could hit some of these houses and some of these locations for the access points of the cameras, but not all of them. And in order to extend that into new areas, I would have to put up additional infrastructure, additional towers, additional fiber access points. And so what we instead look at is our distributed networking technology. And again, we have some other webinars. If you want to drill into this deeper, you can reach out to me later, out to Christy later, and we can drill into this in more detail. But if you look at how a distributed network might work, instead of having one location where I have fiber coming into the network and I have to kind of feed everything back to that point, with a distributed network, I have a single fiber feed into the network, or I can have multiple. But now instead, all of my radio installations are at a lower height. All of these are at 10 meters or less. And they are all short links. They're line of sight. Everything's working at a high performance. And I can build out this in a organic fashion. As additional areas of this geography need to be connected, I can add additional points very easily. So I can add another DN. Say I needed to expand this to the north. Somebody said, oh, hey, I need a camera up here, or I need a Wi-Fi coverage up in this area. I can simply add another DN in this area, and now I've extended the coverage off in that direction. You don't have to sort of plan this large, sort of capital or infrastructure over. You can kind of build it out over time. So it's quite flexible from that standpoint. At the end of the day, and this is again an example of a providing coverage over an area. So if I'm trying to provide Wi-Fi coverage or surveillance coverage or just internet access coverage over an area, at the end of the day, this is a great alternative to fiber. So in an extension to fiber. So if you are going into an area that has fiber, but it has some spots that you can't quite reach with that fiber, 60 gigahertz is a great way to drop a couple of gigabits per second as an extension off of that fiber. It's also a great alternative if you have an area that you're trying to get the revenue flow starting more quickly with that service that you're offering, you can get this up and running much more quickly than you can with trenching fiber or introducing new fiber into the area. So wireless really does has really with this technology brought our capacities up above a couple of gigabits per second, and it's brought the availability up with the resiliency and the meshing, and is now a great alternative to the cost of fiber deployments, whether you're talking about the cost of the actual infrastructure and trenching and aerial fiber, those types of capital costs up front, or even the fast time and the fast return on cash as you can start offering service much more quickly. So keep that in mind as you look at some of the examples and case studies we have in the session today. I mentioned that I would talk a little bit about how this solution is differentiated over some of the other products you might run into in this space. For one thing, this is fully Terragraph certified, so that means it on both the chip level, the node level, and even the network management level, we're following this Terragraph ecosystem standards, which is gives you comfort that we're relying on 802.11ay standard-based chips. We're following the Terragraph OpenR meshing. If you Google OpenR, that's the meshing technology that's behind the scenes in this technology. And then at the management level, we have our CN Maestro, which follows the same approach, which gives you all kinds of insight into the performance. It gives you the handoff from the 60 gigahertz over to the Wi-Fi access point. So it gives you that sort of end-to-end view on a single pane of glass. You can do networking. You can drop this right into your existing IPv4 layer 2 network. Behind the scenes, the product is very modern infrastructure. It uses layer 3 to prevent any kind of broadcast storms or loops in the network. And it uses IPv6 for fast convergence and rerouting of packets as needed in the mesh capabilities. But what we expose to the edge of the network is layer 2 and IPv4. So if you're happy to stay with layer 2 and IPv4, you throw it into layer 2 mode and everything works as you would expect. It looks like a layer 2 bridge dropping into your network. I mentioned we have a couple of different clients. You've got the small form factor. You can see in the lower right there just how small it is. It's maybe just a little bit larger than like an iPhone. A little bit bigger than that, but you think in terms of that, and you mount that right on the side of the building, and you've got that multiple gigabits per second capacity. We get some feedback or questions about how is this different from mesh that was 5-10 years ago using Wi-Fi, using 802.11n and AC technologies for meshing. Well, this is quite a bit different in that it is a purely symmetrical environment. It's synchronized technology, and therefore it's very controlled as far as the access to the spectrum and access to the scheduler. So you have very low latency per hop. It introduces less than a millisecond latency for every hop. And reconvergence happens very quickly within a quarter of a second of any kind of DN outage. The network will, or a fiber outage, it will reroute to the fiber pop that's available. And then Cambium brings all kinds of additional tools to bear. So that if this is not your primary business, putting up Wi-Fi or putting up 60 gigahertz links, if it's just something it's a means to an end, we have tools that make it very simple and easy to do that. We have Link Planner, which gives you a very simple bill of materials on how to set up what exactly do I need to make this connection, what's the capacity I can achieve with this connection, and what's the availability. So if I need 5 nines of communication, I need a 1 gig symmetrical link, and I need it to go 300 meters. It'll tell you exactly what equipment is needed down to even to the accessories and everything that goes along with that. So Link Planner is a great tool for that. I don't get into it too much in today's session, but we also have some advanced planning. If you're going to do very large scale networks, you can scale up to that. But Link Planner is a free tool. You can download it from Cambium. You can run your plans, and you're good to go. And I'll also mention quickly that these are very easy to align. That's another sort of concern people have with 60 gigahertz is, how do I align this? Because it is line of sight. Well, we've introduced some very nice graphical tools into the solution to support that. So I'm just going to kind of show you a few examples, and then we'll take it to some questions here. But I do want to go through some examples. What you'll see here is an office park. This customer is just connecting a number of different buildings with gigabit per second symmetrical links. So you can see here, this is a direct screenshot from our Link Planner tool. So basically you drop this onto a Google map, KMZ file. You've got, in this case, the customer had 2 fiber pops that they had access to. And then they were able to feed this in. These are all these red dots are DNs, and they all mesh together. So you have this very high availability, high resilience network. You're feeding it with fiber into 2 locations. You can always add addition. The nice thing about the meshing is you can then later on, if you need more capacity, you could always add another connection from this fiber pop into the mesh here, and it adds another 3.8 gigabits per second every time you make another connection to the fiber. So, and that extra capacity has been spread around and fed to the entire set of LinkedIn distribution nodes. And then you can kind of see a geographical view there on the left. You can kind of see what the topology of the building layouts are there. Another example, more in the industrial space, this is a rail yard. So again, think in terms of how difficult it is to lay fiber in an intense industrial area like this, but this could apply equally well as if there was a river running through here, or there was a highway that you needed to connect maybe a satellite building to an office campus. What they did here is they put DNs down both sides of the rail yard. They built some mesh links across the tracks, and then they're deploying some Wi-Fi access coverage for both telemetry. They're using some video surveillance on this network, but then a large application is the technicians that are working in the rail yard getting on the Wi-Fi network to get back into the network, get back into their back office tools. So again, a great way to bring outdoor Wi-Fi back to their enterprise network that was operating indoors. Another example is a municipality. This is the city of San Jose, California. You can again see a sort of a logical view of the network here. The nodes here, you've got 2 yellow nodes, which are the fiber pops feeding this network. They've subsequently, there's a third one over here. I was going to say they've subsequently added a few more pops into the network. As you see another one hiding over here to the left. And then all of the dark sort of blue circles here are the distribution nodes, and then the light blue are the client nodes. So that's where you can, and they're using this to feed Wi-Fi to the community and to city workers around the area. City of Aurora, this is another system integrator brought this solution to the city of Aurora, and they were able to replace their existing 50 megabit per second. They had some analog circuits. They had some leased lines from the telco. They were able to replace that with a private network, save to the city the ongoing costs of the telco lease lines, and instead at the same time increasing the capacity of their internal IT infrastructure significantly. So this was a great sale from a system integrator into the IT department for the city. They were able to introduce things like more video surveillance, Wi-Fi into their parks and other areas, and then even some things like credit card processing at some of their remote facilities and that sort of thing. So really a nice way to take a private network and extend it with gigabit per second capacity. This is more of a service provider application, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I will say that one of the things that's unique about this is that this particular service provider, which is in Perth, Australia, is doing very differentiated services. So they have different gaming packages. This is a service provider that leads with, they're the best service provider for gamers, and they have different service offerings for the different kind of users that that want to get on, the different gaming applications, and they leverage a lot of dark fiber that they have around Perth, but then they're extending that to the end user or the home with these V5000. So you can also get an example of how a V5000 is installed right here. And this is on a residential installation, but you can imagine that same type of installation on a small business or enterprise. I think a couple of the things where this technology is going, we do have a handheld smartphone app to do the alignment, and there's a web page or a video on our learning web page, that our learning portal, that you can watch how this is done and see it in action. But it makes it very easy for the installer to align the radio without a lot of experience with wireless. You can just bring it up on a smartphone app. You can dial it in. It'll tell you when you've kind of hit the bullseye, and then you're good to go. And you can always line that up with what you expected to see from Link Planner. And so you kind of have that feedback loop to say, what did my plan say? What did my installation say? And then of course, down the road, you can monitor it in CN Maestro, which is our network management service or solution, and see that it's sort of staying where it was meant to be from the time you planned and installed the system. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but if there's questions, I'm happy to go through it. But keep in mind that we have our CN Maestro. I mentioned CN Maestro. That's how you manage, whether I'm talking about a point-to-point link, point-to-multi-point, or a very large-scale distributed network. I still use CN Maestro for this, and we offer CN Maestro Essentials, which you can manage the entire network with. We also offer CN Maestro X, which has some advanced capabilities and some extensions onto the basics that you can take advantage of as well. And that works very nicely with all of our Wi-Fi solutions. So if you're using Cambium for indoor Wi-Fi, and you want to provide some outdoor Wi-Fi, or you want to provide some video surveillance services, you can combine all that together into a single management view. And then I have to include one thing here on the roadmap. This is where another area where this technology continues to evolve, and it's a new technology. It's been out for about 15 months, but it's still we have a very active roadmap on this. Part of the 11AY standard is something called channel bonding. With 60 gigahertz, these channels are pretty big. They're 2 gigahertz of spectrum wide. With 11AY later this year, we'll support what's called channel bonding. I can take 2 of those channels, bond them together, and now I'm getting, in the field testing here, you can see a 5.2 gigabit per second point-to-point link. Remember, there's no license fee associated with this, with the spectrum. I can connect point A to point B with 5 gigabits per second. This really checks the box for a lot of office building to building connectivity, or any kind of video or Wi-Fi that you want to throw out. As Wi-Fi 6E comes to play, Wi-Fi 6, the capacities keep going up. This is a great backhaul solution to get that outdoor Wi-Fi access point back to the building using a simple point-to-point unlicensed link. So before we go to questions, I'll just say that we are currently offering a 60 gigahertz cnWave starter kit. So if you're interested in sort of kicking the tires on this is a great way to get some experience with it. The kit includes a V5000, a couple of V3000s, and a couple of V1000s. So you can test out some simple point-to-point links. You could test out a multi-point link. I encourage you to go on. If you're interested, you can go to this URL on our webpage. I'd also encourage you to go on our learning.cambiumnetworks.com, and watch a couple videos. Customers that watch, there's 4 videos on our portal. They take less than an hour to watch all 4 of them. Customers that have watched those 4 videos typically have their entire cnWave network up and running in less than an hour. So it is it's an easy technology to deploy, and it is accessible to take a look at with the starter kit. So I'd encourage you to have a look. I'm going to just flash up here the you can contact us. Christy's on the line here as well today. If you have questions, you can certainly reach out to Christy with an email if you want to follow up later. And with that, I think I will pass it back over to Bruce and see if there was any questions that came in, or Christy, if you had any comments you wanted to make at this point.
No, we can go ahead and go to the questions.
Okay, great. We'll go to the questions because we do have quite a few. And
oh, great. Great.
Nice.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah. First, though, I'm wondering, can you speak a little bit to what is needed to receive municipal HOAs or private businesses permission for placement of the mesh links or distribution nodes?
So I guess the experience varies, but oftentimes the HOA will give that authorization or approval to go into a condo complex or apartment building complex, and again, these are pretty small form factor devices. They're much smaller than a satellite dish for like a DirecTV or something. You saw a picture in there; it's the size of your hand. So there's not really been a lot of pushback on it. In fact, I've got several examples of HOAs that were kind of frustrated with their cable provider. I won't throw any cable companies under the bus, but with the cable providers, and being able to come in with a high-speed private network with some more local control over the support has actually been a positive for the HOA. So this has been very, very successful. And I'll mention I will mention one case study we just published last week. You can find on our website from a provider called Desert iNet out in northeast of Phoenix. So there's a web press release you can read up and a case study you can follow on that. And that was a very high-end homeowners association. We're also doing some on some beachfront condos where they don't have fiber, and this was really a way to offer a new option.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the other thing I'd point out on that is because it's PoE, there's really no additional power requirements or anything like that. It's pretty lightweight when you talk about any kind of building codes or anything like that.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I've heard that 60 gigahertz is IPv6 and layer 3 networking. So can I integrate it with my layer 2 IPv4 network?
Yeah, that question does come up because this is based on 802.11 AY standards, and it is based on the Terragraph ecosystem. And at its core, AY is using and Terragraph is using IPv6 to do its OpenR meshing and routing, and it's using layer 3 for the routing. But Cambium has a long history of deploying products, and we know that most networks today are still using layer 2 and IPv4. So you can simply throw the product into a layer 2 mode, and while internally it's using the V6 and layer 3, what you see at the edge of the network is layer 2 and IPv4. So there's very easy integration into existing networks with that. We do have some customers that want to expose IPv6 though, and you can do that if you want. We had some enterprise customers that had some, they wanted to extend to an office building that the client there needed IPv6 public addressing, and they were able to leverage the IPv6 where it was needed to push it all the way to the end. But in most cases, people are happy with layer 2 and IPv4.
Okay. Now I know you mentioned that that this can be used indoors and outdoors, but for 60 gigahertz, is it adequate for indoor applications as well as outdoor?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Cambium from our Wi-Fi portfolio, of course, we cover all kinds of indoor applications, whether you're talking about wall plates or large venues that you want to deploy Wi-Fi. We have a whole range of products for indoor and then, of course, the outdoor. So this is a nice bridge from the indoor to the outdoor with the 60 gig. There are some customers that are using 60 gig indoors. Those are primarily in the logistics and manufacturing area. So if you have a large facility and you're wanting to maybe you have an office on a shop floor or an office in a warehouse floor, you can put a 60 gigahertz connection across that facility and connect that. And the nice thing about 60 gigahertz, so you do need line of sight. So that's why it kind of cries out for a large warehouse or open areas. But the nice thing about it is it's not constrained by any existing interference from any of the Wi-Fi networks that are there. So if you want to, say, connect, like I said, an office facility on the shop floor, you can do that and it won't interfere or cause any concern with the existing Wi-Fi network. So it kind of layers on top of that and can work nicely together. And we're really seeing that with the new Wi-Fi 6 and 6E technology on Wi-Fi, is that you can feed a couple gigabits per second backhaul to a new Wi-Fi 6 access point, and you're not interrupting or impacting any of your existing Wi-Fi infrastructure. So it really allows you to come in and add new capacity using the 6 gigahertz spectrum for your Wi-Fi, and then the 60 gigahertz for the backhaul.
Okay. Now you mentioned in one of the final slides that you showed, you mentioned that there are no license costs associated with this, but do you need to register anything with the FCC?
Oh, that comes up sometimes with people that are somewhat new to wireless, because spectrum does vary a lot. As you talk about different pieces of spectrum. The nice thing about 60 gigahertz, it is completely unlicensed. So just like Wi-Fi in 5 gigahertz is unlicensed, and you can just put that equipment up wherever you like. Same thing with 60 gigahertz. There's no FCC permissions or licensors or anything associated with that. So you can just deploy it much like you deploy Wi-Fi.
Okay, great. Now, how robust is this against being hacked?
Well, so security is sort of a key component to all of the products at Cambium. So it does have all of the links over the air are encrypted. We have it's all secure SSL for all of the management interfaces. So we do take that seriously, and we do continuous security scans. The nice thing is just from a sort of an IT perspective or security at the edge, we have that those capabilities sort of baked into all of our products. You get some additional benefit with 60 gigahertz in that it is, it's just not commonly deployed. So there's not typical ways to sort of jam or interfere with 60 gigahertz networks, because it is a very specific 60 gigahertz spectrum. It's not in every device that's out there. And also it's very narrow beam widths and very short propagation. So you're not going to have security issues coming from a long distance away.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how does your mesh technology differ from your competitors?
So I would say a couple things to that. One is we are using, so when we talk about competitors, we're using 802.11ay, and we're following that chipset standard. So we're using chips that implement that protocol, and we're using the Terragraph meshing capability. And today, even within that Terragraph space, we are the leader in maturity as far as that goes. There are some competitors out there that are trialing some mesh capabilities within Terragraph, but we've been deploying this for more than a year, and we have many examples of customers deploying this, like I mentioned, with tens of thousands of these radios deployed. So I would say at one level, it's maturity. It's another level is more compliance to the standard than other technologies or competitors that are out there. We are actually leveraging all of the capabilities of that meshing, which means that we're able to keep the latencies very low, less than a millisecond per hop, and we're able to keep the reconvergence time very, very low. And that really comes into play when you have multiple fiber feeds into a mesh network, because each distribution node and each client determines which is its preferred POP based on the weighted cost of getting back to that POP. But if either one of those POPs was to disappear, all of the devices can route back to the other POP, and that's all done automatically within the system. And I'm not aware of any of our competitors that can do that level of resilience, even though this is based on the Terragraph ecosystem.
Okay, now we did get a question asking you who you thought your top 5 competitors are, but I don't want to ask you that. Why give them any recognition? But instead, why don't I just ask you, with so many competitors out there, why should you be the choice? Why should Cambium be the choice?
So I'd answer that a couple ways. So I'd probably start with the big picture and say that Cambium, I talked about right at the beginning, is we have this wireless fabric. So we're a single company, a single manufacturer that you can get everything from the enterprise switching to the Wi-Fi indoor and outdoor to the 60 gigahertz, manage it all with the same platform. And really nobody has that breadth of product or portfolio. So that is one absolute reason to consider the Cambium solution for 60 gig and for any of those the solutions. And then if I bring that focus or scope a little bit narrower and put it on the 60 gigahertz, I would just say look for products that are have reached a level of maturity that you can rely on and you can deploy them simply. And that's not just the radio, which of course Cambium has, like I said, 11 million plus radios deployed. So it's not just the reliability and capability of the radio, but keep in mind the software that goes around it. So the link planner planning tools, that link planner has been, that software has been developed and evolved over 16 years. And it really is state of the art as far as propagation modeling, availability planning, and capacity planning. So you've got the link planner, you've got Maestro, which is the great management system. And then, as I mentioned, the alignment tool. So don't get hung up always on the speeds and feeds or specs on the data sheet for the radio itself, which we'll go head to head with anybody on that as well. But keep in mind the software tools that come along with that. And of course, Christy, I'm sure could talk about the channel and the programs that we offer as another great aspect of why you would want to work with Cambium.
Okay, yeah. Christy, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we would love, if you haven't joined our partner program already, we would love for you to join. I'm going to be following up with everyone with links on how to do that. And one thing I wanted to mention, when I looked at the attendee list, as there were quite a few MSPs, we have a program here at Cambium. To me, it's the best kept secret. A lot of partners, it's right there on the website, but a lot of partners, they sign up and, they never enter the program. And it is this wonderful, wonderful tool for MSPs to always know their pricing. They don't have to mess with deal registration. They receive escalated support. So if that's you and you are managing your client's Wi-Fi and switching, I encourage you to take a look at that program. It was designed to make the life of the MSP easier. It was literally create it from talking to just hundreds and hundreds of MSPs around the world. And then secondly, if you're new to 60 gigahertz, or maybe you're a WISP and you've been in this world, either way, we have a roadshow that we have going on right now. I believe there's 4 stops coming up. We would love for you to join. It is a day and a half. It is technical, but you will learn the world of 60 gigahertz and all those tools that Bruce was referring to. They'll also go in depth on those. So you'll leave understanding 60 gigahertz and how to install it. That right now, the roadshows, we are offering it for free. So when I follow up, I'll be sure to add the link to those events as well. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to always reach out. We are here for you. We're pretty easy peasy to work with, and we love our channel partners. So please always ask us if there's anything we can do for you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Christy. I got a couple more questions. One person wants you to talk about the wireless fabric, wanting to know what sort of options are available and how the pricing is.
Well, let me pop this slide back up real quick. When we talk about the wireless fabric, it really means that we want to offer connectivity regardless of the capacity that you're looking to deliver. So whether you're talking about 50 megabit per second packages, 100 meg, all the way up to multiple gigabits per second. And then also density and range. So whatever kind of connectivity you want to get, you want to move bits from point A to point B wireless, we think we have a great conversation to have with you about what a solution might fit well. And that extends to the client access with our Wi-Fi solutions, as well as the enterprise switching. We are, I'm not going to, I have to apologize. I'm not going to get into pricing other than to say that we are very, the total cost of ownership of our products will stack up against anybody. And when you always have to keep in mind, again, the cost of the hardware itself, and then dial in the cost of the support and reliability of that hardware. And then of course the ongoing software costs and subscription and maintenance and support costs that go along with that. Make sure you dial all of that into the equation when you're comparing, supplier to supplier.
Yeah, and I noticed there was a question, about comparing cost to Mist and Fortinet. So when you're, to Bruce's point, when you're looking at the cost of the management controller, licensing for the AP, to talk to the controller, the support, renewals, I call them ransom fees. We never hold you hostage. So when you're looking at CN Maestro and our support, that is all included in the cost of the hardware, right? So, when they say, this bad boy costs $500, it costs $500, and that everything comes with that. We do have an add-on management controller for MSPs, but outside of that, once you purchase, something out of the Cambium portfolio, you're supported for life. You call us, we're there for you. We're never going to charge you for support. We're never going to brick your AP if you don't pay some type of license fee, because they don't exist here. So that's a good point. When you're comparing it, you kind of have to look at all those little add-ons they get you with. We don't mess around with any of that at Cambium. It's very easy to understand the cost here.
Well, that I think will wrap up today's webinar. It's full of great information. Our thanks to Cambium Senior Director of Product Management, Bruce Collins, and of course, Christy Meany, Manager of North American Channel Marketing and Development. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks everybody.
Now, before we go, I want to remind you that by attending this webinar, you are enrolled automatically in the Channel Vision Webinar Rewards Program. This program makes you eligible for monthly prize drawings from Channel Vision. For information on the program and to see what kind of prizes you can win, visit our website, channelvisionmag.com/webinar rewards. Also, You will be able to access this webinar and all other Channel Vision presentations on demand by visiting our website at channelvisionmag.com. And now from all of us at Channel Vision Magazine and from our friends at Cambium, thanks for attending. Have a safe and prosperous day.